Hello everyone and welcome to Mimi's Storytime. Today is the first day of spring for the year, so happy first day of spring to everyone. I hope everyone's day goes absolutely wonderful. And for those of you who have off on the weekend, happy Friday. Thank TGIF. Today we're going to start with the promised tale of Winnie the Pooh. So this is the first story of the first. He wrote several tales in two books, and so this is the first of the two books. It's just simply called Winnie the Pooh, and the first tale is called "In which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin." Again, written by A. Milne in 1926, and this is the complete tales of Winnie the Pooh, so a thick book because it's two books, and with decorations by Ernest H. Shepard. So instead of an illustrator, he's the decorator. I like it. So let me show you the first picture in the book. He was not originally called Winnie the Pooh. This was a bear called Edward the Bear, and this is what he looked like. That haircut on Christopher Robin was and still is known as a page boy. It can also be called a choir boy cut. Very popular cut for a long time. So we're introduced to Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now. Bump, bump, bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. But sometimes he feels that there really is another way. If only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you, Winnie the Pooh. When I first heard his name, and I think in this situation, he's definitely the narrator. Possibly he's Christopher Robin's father. A. Milne. So whenever you hear me say this is someone else in the story besides Christopher and Winnie the Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't. But you said he's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what "the" means? Oh, yes, now I do, I said quickly. And I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening... What about a story, said Christopher Robin. What about a story, I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? Well, about himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. Oh, Winnie the Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. I think the growly voice belonged to Winnie the Pooh. Let me show you what he looks like here in front of his home under the name of Sanders. Now, I don't know why there's a sign that says Mr. Sanders, but he definitely lives under the name of Sanders. Just a moment, let me pick up a pillow. This book is so heavy, I have to have something under it or it digs into my leg. So now we've been introduced to Winnie the Pooh. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. And in the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of that tree, there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. First of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing without its meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making a buzzing noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. Let me show you what he's doing. There he is. He's standing, and there are those bees. So he thinks the only reason for being a bee is to make honey. And then he got up and said, and the only reason for making honey is so as I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. Let me show you his cuteness, his cute self climbing this tree. Up close. Oh. So he climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed, and as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself, and it went something like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, 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 I wonder why he does. Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they'd build their nest at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb all those stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack! And there he goes. That branch couldn't hold him up. Oh, help, said Pooh, as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. If only I hadn't, he said, as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. You see, what I meant to do, he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed onto another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do, of course it was rather, he admitted as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help. Now, in case you're wondering what a gorse bush looks like, I don't know if we have them here in the States, but they're definitely in Europe. They're a very prickly bush, highly unpleasant to get into. And look at poor Pooh. He's covered in little prickles and spines. That does not sound or look too comfortable to me. He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an awed voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you, I said. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie the Pooh went round to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. morning, Christopher Robin," Pooh said. "Good morning, Winnie the Pooh," said you. "I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you." "A balloon?" "Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself thinking of balloons and wondering." "What do you want a balloon for?" Christopher said. Winnie the Pooh looked round to see that nobody was listening, put his paw to his mouth, and said in a deep whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with a balloon." "I do," said Pooh. Let me show you. So Christopher Robin's blowing a balloon. This is a whole lot of imagination, and I love it. Well, it just so happened that you had been to a party, meaning Christopher Robin, the day before at the house of your friend Piglet. And you had balloons at the party. And you had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one and had left it behind, being really too young to go up to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. "Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. Pooh put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were only part of the tree and not notice you. And if you have a blue balloon, they might think you were only part of the sky and not notice you. And the question is, which is most likely? Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" you asked. "They might or they might not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You never can tell with bees." He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive them." "Then you had better have the blue balloon," you said, and so it was decided. And how is he going to look like a angry black cloud? Well, rolling in the mud, of course. Okay, so they've decided he's going to be an angry black cloud, and he's going to be under a blue sky, meaning a blue balloon. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon, and you took your gun with you. Goodness, just in case. As you always did, and Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of and rolled until he was black all over. And then, when the balloon was blown up as big, and you and Pooh were both holding on to the string, you let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from it. Now let's take a good look at him before he gets on the balloon. He is muddy as muddy can be. So he's level with the top of the tree, but he's 20 feet away from it. "Hooray!" you shouted. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh. "Down to you. What do I look like?" "You look like a bear holding onto a balloon," you said. "Not," said Pooh anxiously, "not like a small black cloud in a blue sky?" "Not very much." Well, perhaps from up here it looks different. And as I say, you never can tell with bees. There was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey, he could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. After a little while, he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello," you said. "I think the bees suspect something." "What sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me that they're suspicious." Perhaps they think that you're after their honey. It may be that. You never can tell with bees. There was another little silence, and then he called down to you again. Let's take a look at Pooh in the air before we go on. Yes, it looks like the bees are checking him out. They probably are suspicious. So Pooh called down to Christopher Robin again. Christopher Robin! Yes? Have you an umbrella in your home? In your house? I think so. I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look up at me every now and then and say, "Tut tut, it looks like rain." I think if you did that, it would help the deception, which we are practicing on these bees. Well, you laughed to yourself, silly old bear, but you didn't say it out loud because you were so fond of him and you went home for your umbrella. Oh, there you are, called down Winnie the Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up? You said. Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down here? No? A pity. Well now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, "Tut tut, it looks like rain," I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go! Let's see Christopher Robin under the umbrella. Your umbrella is so humongous you can barely see Christopher Robin. So here we go. We've got a plan. Christopher Robin's going to walk underneath Winnie the Pooh saying, "Oh no, it looks like rain." And Winnie the Pooh is going to sing a little cloud song. So while you, Christopher Robin, walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. Let's see what he looks like now. He's still floating around. And the bees are not leaving. The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nest and flew all around the cloud as it began the second verse of this song. And one bee sat down on the nose of the cloud, oh no, for a moment, and then got up again. Christopher, ow! Robin called out the cloud. Yes? I have just been thinking, and I have come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sorts of bees. Are they? Said Christopher Robin. Quite the wrong sort. So I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey. Shouldn't you? Would they make the wrong sort of honey? Yes. So I think I shall come down. How? Asked you. Winnie the Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go of the string, he would fall. Bump! And he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun? Just wait till y'all see this gun. Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon, you said. But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me. All right, let's show you a bee up close. It's a sweet little bee, or maybe a not so sweet bee, since they're definitely suspicious of the cloud. Okay, when you put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow! Said Pooh. Did I miss, you asked? Well, you didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said, and you fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came down slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated to the ground. Y'all ready for this? I used to would have called that a pop gun. There's a cork on the end that makes a popping sound when you shoot it. So they had to pop the balloon. But at least Winnie the Pooh was safe. He came down slowly. But Winnie the Pooh's arms were so stiff from holding on to the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week. And whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off. And I think, but I am not sure, that is why he was always called Pooh, from the blowing noises. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one, I said, but there are others. About Pooh and me, and Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember, and then when I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump. But they didn't catch it, did they? Christopher Robin said. No. Pooh couldn't because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said, only Pooh doesn't very well, so that's why he likes having it told to him again. Because then it's a real story and not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg, and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, Coming to see me have my bath? I might, I said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I? Not one bit. He nodded and went away, and in a moment I heard Winnie the Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. And it's bath time, and Winnie the Pooh is watching carefully. And that is the end of the first story, in which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh, the bees, and the stories begin. In case some of the words sound unfamiliar or you're not quite sure what they mean, you have to remember these stories were written 100 years ago, and so they're going to sound a little different and maybe a little bit more formal than what you're used to. You'll get it though. Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin and all of his friends are very special creatures. I just love them so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. And when it comes nighttime, I hope everyone has someone to give them a hug and a kiss on the forehead. Y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.